By the end of this video, you should know exactly what to expect when you're going into A-levels in order to get the highest grades within your A-levels, and also how they differ from GCSE. When I was doing research on this topic in year 11 and I was choosing my A-levels, I went online and I went to like Reddit, I went like on YouTube videos, and I searched up exactly how A-levels differed from GCSEs. I had a really silly mindset back then where I actually thought that like in A-levels you have a lesser amount of subjects. You have like 3 or 4 or maybe even 5. And at GCSEs you have like 9 or 10 or 11. So I thought, using my GCSE grade 9, that 3, which is lower than 9, must equate to A-levels being slightly easier than GCSE. This was wrong, and I'm going to tell you exactly why in this video. But in general, there was not like that much advice on exactly how they differ. Everyone online was saying stuff like they're so hard, or like A-levels are insanely hard. But there were also other people saying they were really easy. I remember this exact conversation on one night in the mosque. It was actually 2 Ramadans ago. So it's Ramadan right now, and like it was 2 Ramadans ago. So I was in the mosque and I went up to one guy and he was like, yeah, like A-level maths is so hard, you can't even expect to get above a C. And I went to another guy in the same mosque in the same like time frame, and he was like, yeah, A-level further maths is a bit easier than GCSE maths. Both of these were completely unironic and like said with a straight face, and that literally got me so confused at the time. I didn't know whether to believe this guy or the other guy. So hopefully by the end of this video you should have that all clarified, and you can trust me because I'm currently studying A-level maths, further maths and physics at year 13 in one of the best schools in the UK, and I've gone through quite a massive transformation where I went from like a normal state school in year 11, year 10, and I was getting alright average grades like grades 4 and 5. In year 11 I locked in and I got pretty much all 9s, and now I'm predicted all A stars in my A-levels. So I've gone through the whole spectrum, and yeah, like hopefully you should know exactly what is so different when it comes to A-levels. Before I properly start the steps, I just want to caveat this by saying, because of the subjects I take at A-level, I want to tailor this more to STEM subjects. I have gone around and asked other people for their advice in different subjects, but I want to tailor this for more like STEM sciencey subjects. So if you're doing irrelevant subjects like sociology, no, just kidding. Like sociology is a perfect subject. I applaud anyone who takes sociology or like any of like travel and tourism. If you're doing that, fair enough to you. You know, I was actually having this discussion with like, sorry to go off on like a side tangent, but I was having this discussion with one of my mates, and in my opinion, like the reason sociology and like random subjects like travel and tourism are seen as irrelevant or like not as good as like maths or further maths A-level isn't actually the content. Like sociology is a very important subject to study. Psychology is an extremely important thing to study. Business studies is very important in the real world. However, like it's the weighting that universities put on this degree that causes them to be valued more than, like you value further maths more than sociology just because of like universities seeing that as more important. But like the pursuit of knowledge of sociology is very valuable. Like learning about sociology is very valuable. It's just like the universities that have created this like false importance. I'm not saying further maths is not important. I take further maths, but like creating this false weighting with knowledge when in fact like it's weighted pretty much equally. Anyway, back to my point. Yeah, this video is specifically tailored towards STEM subjects, so like maths, further maths, all of the sciences, like anything sciencey based can be applied with this video. So if you're doing essay subjects, I would probably like, I would still watch this video, but I would take everything I say with a grain of salt just because of like this being tailored towards STEM subjects. The first difference between A-levels and GCSE is the content is way more conceptually harder to understand and just more in depth. In GCSE, you've probably had this feeling where you just go online and then you click on a YouTube video, and then the YouTube video explains exactly like the topic. So for example, if you're doing the quadratic formula in maths and you don't really understand how it works, you can just go to a maths video, type it in, and like you understand it within 10 minutes. If you're doing like sciences or something, if you don't know what like a cell is or like how that works, you can just go online, go on YouTube, and you get like a video explaining what a cell is, and it's pretty easy to understand. You can understand it in like 20 minutes. When it comes to A-level, that just gets so much harder. It's so much harder to conceptually get your head around certain topics. For example, if you're doing further maths at A-level, some of the maths topics you can get are very, very hard to understand. And like some of the statistics things you can get. So like in maths at A-level, it's broken down into 3 main topics. It's broken down into statistics, which is more like, it's more of like the frequency diagrams and like the histograms you get at GCSE, or mechanics, which is like basically physics, and then pure. Pure is like the normal maths with like algebra. So like statistics is very hard to get your head around when it comes to A-level, just because of like how complicated everything looks and seems. So that can therefore serve as a very, very big deterrent for people. Like the content is very hard at A-level, and I remember in year 12 when I first got into year 12, like further maths and maths, I was completely overwhelmed. I didn't know that the content was going to be this hard. And it wasn't even like that hard. It was just like, it looked very, very scary. So the first difference you're going to see when you come into A-levels and you start doing them, you're going to see like some stuff when it comes to maths, and you're going to see some stuff when it comes to like physics that's going to look really, really off-putting and scary. But all I want to say is just that as long as you understand the topic, you'll be fine. If you don't like understand everything, but you still practice the topic and then you can answer practice questions on it, you'll be fine. Everyone goes through the process of going into year 12 or 13 and then getting way too overwhelmed, regardless of like who may say stuff, or like how some people may frame it when it comes to how good they're doing at A-level. Everyone comes into A-levels scared, basically. When you go into maths and you like for the first time you see differentiation, you see all these big words like calculus, like integration by substitution, you're going to get really, really overwhelmed. But just have the mind to acknowledge like everyone else is going through the same experience. One tip I do want to say when it comes to year 12 and like A-levels is AI right now is the best. Like it is so good to make you understand topics, especially if you're doing STEM subjects. ChatGPT and like DeepSeek are a godsend. No one these are very, very new, so no one really talks about them. But if you're finding something hard, or your teacher hasn't explained it properly, and like you have too much of like social anxiety to ask them, or like you don't want to put your hand up in front of the class, then you can just go and like basically say, explain this topic to me, and then copy and paste the topic from the specification or the topic at hand, and just say, explain this to me like I'm a 12-year-old, or like explain this to me like I'm a 14-year-old. I would personally put below my age, just because it really, really like simplifies it, because some of the things can be really, really hard. But like if you have a topic that you don't understand in year 12 and year 13, coming into it, I think AI is a very, very big advantage you can have when it comes to understanding, because just because of like how you can ask for more analogies, how you can ask it as many questions as you want without like having the fear of like what it may say back to you. So yeah, I kind of wish I used AI more at the beginning of year 12 just to get my head around certain topics. But then again, I still got all A stars in my mocks. But hopefully I get the same, or like close to the same in my A-levels. But that's the first step. The content is way, way more conceptually harder to understand, and it's way more in depth. The second main difference between GCSEs and A-levels are the resources. The resources at A-levels are so much harder to find, especially if you're doing like further maths, which, let's be honest, like not many people in the country do further maths. So it's very hard to find resources and like videos on the specific board you're doing on further maths, or like any other topic, compared to GCSEs. In GCSE, you could just type in the topic and you could probably find, for your specific exam board, resources on that. However, when it comes to A-level, it's way more dependent on your teacher, and also like how you do in class and how focused you are in class. What I would like, this is just a general tip. What I would personally do is, it doesn't actually matter about the resources when it comes to A-level. Like it doesn't matter if you've memorized all the stuff at the textbook. All that matters is basically if you can do all the practice questions. If you can fill out all the practice questions with pretty much no mistakes, you don't even like. I know this is kind of like controversial to say. You don't even need to understand that much. All you need to do is be able to do the practice questions correctly and consistently. Even though there's not that many resources, like as long as you can understand the practice questions and you kind of listen in class. I've made a full guide on how to listen in class and how to focus in class. If you follow that and you just do that and you just do practice questions, you'll be fine for A-level. A lot of people like struggle when it comes to finding resources, or a lot of people like panic when they don't see the things they've got in class online. But then again, like as long as you can answer the questions. Just have this one thing in mind. As long as I can answer the questions when it comes to the exam, I'm completely fine. Resources will be hard to find. However, I do think that as time progresses, resources will increase. And also, AI is so much better. Like, I know I'm hyping up AI, but specifically what I mean is, like, if you don't understand something, if you don't understand something in maths, you can basically just ask ChatGPT or ask DeepSeek to explain it to you, and it will. Like, it is so good at like making you understand, because you can just ask questions upon questions to the model. But yeah, like in previous years, it would be so hard to find stuff on A-level subjects. So that's the second main difference. The third main difference between GCSEs and A-levels are the tests are way more volatile and way more unpredictable. Right now at GCSE, if you haven't started revising, which I personally advise you to start around about now. I've made a full guide on exactly how you can start revising right now and get like pretty good grades. I'll link it up here as well. But yeah, like I would strongly advise you to start revising around about now. But right now you can kind of see what kind of student you are. Either you're a grade 9 or you're a top student, or you're like average, or you're like not so academically smart student right now. At A-level, that doesn't really work, because in one test you can get a C, and in the other test you can get an A-star. It's so unpredictable, or like it's so volatile with your grade, just because of like different topics require different skill sets when it comes to A-level, and if you don't apply certain skill sets to them, you're not going to get good in the test. For example, I did like mocks recently. By the way, I don't really want to share results that often on this YouTube channel anymore, just because like I've seen the trend of like, if I get bad results on my exams or something, or if other study YouTubers get bad results in their exams, or they have a bad day, which I'm not saying I have, or like I want to do, but just in the like it's not unrealistic for me to just have a bad day, and I can't tell like you guys. Like, if I don't tell you, or if I just want to keep it silent, or if I do tell you, like, it will massively impact my... Basically, this is like another way of saying I don't want to get made fun of in the comments, just because of like, I've seen this guy named Udoka Fintelman over the last like two years. He didn't do as well in like his A-levels or whatever, or like I don't know, but I saw the comments like genuinely just like insulting him for not revealing his results. So I just want to take this time and say that like I may not say all of my results on camera, just because I'm scared that like I don't want to get online hate if I don't say my results, or like if I don't get good grades, or I get really good grades. Regardless, this advice still applies to everyone. If I don't follow it, I'm not going to get the grades I want, and if I do follow it, I will get the grades I want, and it's the same for you. But yeah, that's a weird side tangent. I may not like reveal my results that often on this YouTube channel. So I got one of the highest marks in my year in like further maths core, so core pure. So basically it's like the algebra part of further maths. So I got like really high. I got an A-star. However, in the statistics section, I got like 50% or like 60%. This shows you how variable some tests can be. It's not the same as GCSE, where you can just, if you're a grade 8 or 9 student, you can like kind of wing it, and you know you're going to get like pretty good at the summer. For A-levels, it is very hard to predict until you get into the exam season what you're going to get. What I do want to say with this is, that doesn't mean that you can't get a good grade. All it means is it will just be like harder for you to predict what you're going to get in your end of year. Like, if you just work hard in A-levels, just that, you're not guaranteed an A-star. If you work hard with the correct plan in mind, then you're way more likely to get an A-star in the subject. It's not like GCSE, where you can just like wing it just because you happen to be the grade 9 student and get a grade 9. It's way more like work dependent and way more volatile when it comes to like the mark scheme and like how you're feeling on the day. So you just have to realize that it's way more like certain things, such as like how you answer the mark scheme, or how well you answer the practice questions, come a lot more into effect when it comes to A-levels compared to GCSE, where you can just kind of wing it and then get a grade 9. The fourth main difference between GCSEs and A-level is you're way less sure on the content. This is a small section. However, when I was doing my GCSEs and I was revising for them, I remember literally being able to say the topic out loud back to you. So, for example, I remember everything when it comes to photosynthesis in biology. I remember everything when it comes, I don't now, but like I used to remember everything when it came to organic chemistry and chemistry, like in normal chemistry. I remember being able to like recite the textbook back to you. However, when it comes to A-level, just because of the lack of time you have and the bulk of volume you have, you're less sure on certain parts, which means that when you're doing the topic in class, it's way more important to lock in and really understand it then. This tip can just be clarified or like summarized by that one thing. Lock in when it comes in class. As soon as you start falling behind in class and as soon as you start not paying attention in class and you muck about in class, when it comes to A-levels, that's when you start to lose focus and lose track of your grade. Another thing when it comes to A-levels is every single topic is built up on the previous topic. So if you don't pay attention in class, like today, 2 weeks from now, you may not understand the topic in class, which makes it way harder for you to catch up. So those two things are something you have to really, really keep in mind. There is way, way more content and you're going to be way less sure on the content. So just lock in and like really, really think and listen in class when like a certain topic comes about in class. One tip I want to give you is you have to try and think in systems. Systems thinking basically means you're not gonna try and like revise everything or cram everything in the weekend. And I know that everyone like says, oh yeah, like don't cram or like don't stay up, don't do everything the night before. But this is very, very important when it comes to A-levels. Like I don't mean this in like a cliche way. Like it's so important that you don't, like I used to do this. I used to stay up like really, really early in the morning calling my friend when it came to GCSE, and we just used to hop on group calls and then like go through the whole of like a GCSE subject. But you can't do that when it comes to A-levels just because of how much content there is. So systems thinking basically means building a system and planning ahead very intricately what you're going to do in each day and how you're going to revise for the subject and exactly what you're going to do. You have to plan out everything, in my opinion, to get the best grades. And I personally created something, or like I stole something from another guy named Charlie Morgan that's really, really helped me with this. It's completely free. It's a massive Excel spreadsheet with like the days of the week listed, and basically it enables you to just plan ahead and plan your work ahead, so you can plan exactly what work you're going to do 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, 2 days from now, just because it will give you that clarity on how you're going to approach such a massive amount of volume when it comes to A-levels. So that's just like a tip I have. Go click on the link in the description or like in the comments down below. It will give you free access to a massive spreadsheet where you can basically think in systems and plan ahead when it comes to writing your exams or like doing well in tests. The fifth main difference between GCSEs and A-level isn't really something to do with the work per se, but it's more general, and it's that you're going to feel way more isolated when you're going to do your A-levels. And also there's just going to be there's going to be so many sweats, mate. Like there is going to be so many people trying so hard when it comes to A-level. This is different advice to like the teachers give you. Basically you can have this from a student perspective, but I remember the days when like I did GCSE mocks in English language or like English literature, and you'd have those days when you would walk out and you would see that like set 7 person who answered every single question in the English literature paper. Or you would see that I remember I had a friend who compared a poem to an inspector course. So like the book that you read, he compared that to a poem and wrote that into one massive paragraph in the GCSE English literature exam. And you're not going to have any of that when it comes to A-levels. There will be so many people trying so hard. At GCSE, if you did some work, you're considered like the top 20 or 10% of students in your class. However, when it comes to A-levels, like it is very, very hard for you to get like the A or A star, just because of how many people are actually trying now. That leads me on to my next point, which is it's so much more isolating as well. Like it's so hard for you to see other people who do like approximately the same subjects as you. And the people you are going to see are just going to be, no, just joking. They're not going to be neeks. People who take further maths are very, very kind people. But like it's so hard to find some people who take the same subjects as you, or like the same kind of subjects as you, just because like when it comes to like year 12 and 13, not everyone's going to do A-levels. A-levels are hard and they are an option for you to do. So I remember my friend group is now doing like a variety of different subjects. And what this is going to lead you to is when it comes to exams and when it comes to like tests and stuff, you won't have people that you can just like talk about like the subject to. You can't like talk crap about a subject to your mates just because everyone does like different types of subjects. So this is kind of like a sad point where at GCSE, like everyone did like English language and English literature. You talk about how like trash the extract they gave you was, or like how trash the story they gave you was. But when it comes to A-levels, it's way more isolating, and no one really does it. No one really does your combination of subjects, or at least like in my friend circle, which can be isolating, and it can like kind of leave you kind of like down and like kind of sad. But as long as you plan your work ahead and you use the warm-up and you think in systems and you don't like revise everything the night before, you should be calm. But this is kind of like a sad point to end on, where you're not really gonna have that like banter you used to get with your mates when it came to like everyone doing the same kind of subjects. So hopefully now you understand the 5 main differences when it comes to approaching GCSEs and approaching A-levels, and you have a more in-depth understanding of exactly what to expect when it comes to A-levels. I didn't provide any like certain value or like action steps on exactly how to get better grades or like how to improve your grades in this video. It's more of like a general sort of like informational video. I just wanted to like kind of show you the differences between GCSEs and A-level. However, if you do want to know exactly how to get better grades, get better at the gym, by the way, if you don't know my story, like I used to be really, really overweight and I used to be really obese, but at that time at like year 10 or year 11, I went through a massive transformation where I like basically got kind of in good shape. I can show you a couple of physique pics here. And I got like really, really good grades in my GCSEs. So if you want to follow this channel and you want like content to do with that, go hit the subscribe button down below. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Send this to someone who thinks GCSEs are easier than A-levels, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.